Welcome to Tracy's Terrors. If you love horror and appreciate smart animal commentary, then you are in the right place. Today, Strigoi, VamPullet, and I will be discussing David Cronenberg's 2014 novel, Consumed. If there is a cosmic force out there distributing talents, then it seems to have given them all to David Cronenberg. His debut novel, Consumed, demonstrates that not only is he an amazing filmmaker, the genius behind two of my favorite movies, The Brood and Shivers, among many others, but he's also an incredibly talented writer. Consumed offers bold and original insights on geriatric sexuality and the aesthetics of cancer. And you're probably thinking, geez, Tracy, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. And in anyone else's hands, it wouldn't be. But Cronenberg weaves his observations on serious subjects into a plot that is so bizarre and propulsive that you cannot put it down. It helps that many of his meditations on illness and aging are voiced through a character named Aristide Arostigi. I'm probably mangling that, who is, at least for my money, one of the most fascinating literary characters of the last few decades. There are some problems, of course. Consumed consists of parallel stories, and one is much stronger than the other. Also, the novel's riddled with technical jargon and dated by the narrator's, endless wonder on the possibilities of the internet. This tendency, I think, in a few years might actually strike me as pleasantly nostalgic, but right now it's a little too soon. Overall, though, these are minor issues in an entertaining and incandescently brilliant book. I am excited to talk about this novel, so let's jump into the summary. Consumed follows the exploits of Nathan and Naomi, two journalists based in New York City who travel the globe in search of sensational stories. They're a couple, they've been together for 4 years, but because of their work, they rarely see each other in person. As a crime writer, Naomi is pursuing the case of Celestine and Aristide Arostigi, and again, I'm probably mispronouncing that. They're famous French philosophers who are known for their vaguely Marxist philosophy of consumerism. When photographs of Celestine's masticated body parts appear online, the media account is that Aristide, probably in some crazy sex ritual, has murdered and cannibalized his wife before fleeing France for Asia. Receiving a tip that he is in Tokyo, Naomi is really determined to interview him. Now, while she is chasing this gold standard of scandal, Nathan is after something a lot less exciting. After contracting Roify's disease, a sexually transmitted infection, not from Naomi incidentally, he travels to Toronto to meet the doctor for whom the infection is named. And when he gets there, Dr. Roify proposes that he write a book on his new research interest, which happens to be his own daughter, Chase Roify, and her nighttime antics. Now, at first, Nathan and Naomi seem to be following completely separate paths. But their paths ultimately converge into one grand and truly strange story, astonishing in its complexity and its international scope of sexual, technological, and geopolitical intrigue. Aristide is one of my favorite characters in recent literature, and he is the dark star of this novel. Pushing all the buttons, his tale of philosophy, sex, and cannibalism is bound to be more titillating than anything that Dr. Roify and his troubled daughter can offer. But what surprised me is that Aristide is an attractive character, not because his behavior is so shocking, but because it is so thoroughly ordinary and recognizable. I went in expecting his love for his wife to be boundless and passionate and idealistic because I was thinking in terms of the stereotypical French philosopher. But instead, his attachment to Celestine is deeply grounded in the day-to-day habits of a 40-year marriage and based on his really deep desire for stability. I really liked Aristide, and then I felt uneasy about liking him because he is supposed to have dismembered his wife. Now, what does that say about me and my purported values? I know he's a fictional character, but it was still uncomfortable. But Cronenberg, as is his style, made me sit with that discomfort. propensity to cultivate this kind of embarrassment, this kind of discomfort, then makes him the perfect person to take up a subject that is rarely explored in literature, and that is the romantic and sexual lives of the elderly, a topic on which media, in all of its forms, is particularly squeamish. Now, through Aristide, we get a close-up look at an aging couple. He describes how they need to make accommodations for each other during sex and wonders how the importance of accommodations in their relationship puts them in dialogue with the disabled community. He wonders, how might discourses from the disabled community help he and Celestine to explain and improve their own sexual experiences. Cronenberg deals with these and other questions in surprising depth and with really great sensitivity. I found it difficult to turn from Aristide's often solemn reflections to Chase Royfi's juvenile provocations. Nathan's story simply can't compete with Naomi's, and that's because his subject embodies and, yes, embellishes one of the most obnoxious stock figures in film and fiction, at least for me, and that is the manic pixie dream girl. With her unpredictable hostility, her inane giggling, her quaint expressions, oh gosh, Chase aims for a whimsicality that just makes my teeth grind. As you would expect, Cronenberg's manic pixie dream girl is extreme and inflected by his signature genre of body horror. But if you disregard the blood and the few moments of cannibalism, Chase is just another version of Clementine from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And whether critical or not, I just never really enjoy interpretations of this trope. Now, if your reading consumed less for characterization and more for textual riffs on Cronenberg's typically visual preoccupations, then you'll find plenty here to enjoy. Throughout the novel, two of his favorite themes, the sexualization of disease and the technologization, that is a word, of the human body are prominent. And each theme hits a little bit differently in 2024. Nowadays, it seems like everyone has or knows someone who has cancer. And if you don't, then you may have a voyeuristic relationship with one of the thousands of cancer patient influencers on TikTok and YouTube. Almost anticipating this mainstreaming of cancer and its images, Cronenberg suggests that the disease's signature swellings of lymph nodes and tumors might, either through a fleeting trend or even a longer-term evolutionary development, they might alter Western aesthetics of beauty. And this possibility, as completely screwed up as it is, seems particularly relevant now at a time when healthy women are using filler and prosthetics to intentionally distend and even deform their faces and bodies. While Cronenberg's discussions of cancer feel timely, his fixation on the cyborg seems dated. The supplementation of our bodies with technology has become so ubiquitous, accelerated, and invasive that from our current vantage point, observations he makes in 2014 seem quaint. I suspect that in another decade, when we're at an even later stage of simulation and abstraction, when our lives are even more heavily mediated, his novel might take on a golden hue of nostalgia. But right now, it's at this strange point of being too distant for identification and too close for any kind of wistful sentimentality. I wouldn't change the novel's focus on cyborgification because, its reception, whether positive or negative, is completely contingent on where we are in time. What I would get rid of is Cronenberg's absurdly heavy use of technological jargon. Do we really need to know the exact aperture, ISO, and shutter speed settings on his characters' cameras? Probably not. Do we need to know the specific generation or iteration of their devices? Again, probably not. But then again, it may be that tripping on these very disruptive capital letter and number combinations, these makes and models that are listed in the text, it could be tripping on them is the point. Maybe Cronenberg is foregrounding the materiality of language and reminding us that it too is a piece of hardware, a piece of technology. He's clever like that. David Cronenberg published Consumed 10 years ago, and he hasn't put out another novel since then, which is a real shame. If the book shows us anything, it's that he's got loads of creativity and brilliance to spare. I just wish that he would put it into another writing project. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode and would like to hear more from the three of us, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.